Now we are going to do the third step, that is how we can improve the fertility of soil. So see, we have two kinds of methods by which we can improve the fertility. One is the natural methods which have been employed, and other is the artificial method. So first we are going to see, this is very important topic, listen to me carefully. See, the first method, that is natural. So how naturally we can actually improve the soil fertility. So there are three common methods which can be employed naturally, that is field fallow, mixed cropping and crop rotation. Again, field fallow, mixed cropping and crop rotation. Now we are going to discuss that what actually we do in these three methods. One is the field fallow. What we do actually, suppose you have planted the crops in a soil for one season, right? Then after harvesting, we are starting with the field fallow. So what do we do in a field fallow? Field fallow means keeping land uncultivated for one or more seasons. Suppose you have sown some kind of crops. So after harvesting, please do not plant any kind of crop in a soil. Just keep it fallow for 1 or 2 seasons. And suppose if you are not growing any kind of crop in any soil, and you are just leaving the land fallow for 1 or 2 seasons, then it will actually get time. Those microorganisms will get time. In that time, they can actually you can say recycle the nutrients, and they can actually increase the soil fertility, which is very important if we need to grow crops in the soil. So field fallow means leaving land uncultivated for 1 or more seasons. Write in your copies, leaving land uncultivated for 1 or more seasons. And if we do like this, the microbes get sufficient time to recycle the nutrients, and thus they are helping in improving the soil fertility. Second natural method what we can employ is mixed cropping. That is mixed cropping. Now what we do in mixed cropping? Mixed cropping means plant crops with different nutrient demand in a same field. Suppose you have a soil, suppose I have a patch of land, right? Then I am not growing a single kind of crop in a field. What I do is I plant different variety of crop, what is the criteria behind my selection? I choose those crops which have different nutrient demands. Suppose I choose a crop X which needs the major nutrient nitrogen. Then along with that I am choosing some other crop which needs say phosphorus as a main nutrient. So in that way the soil will not get deficient of any particular nutrient. So that means it will contain all the nutrients, maybe not more or not less, but still it will contain all the nutrients. It won't be deficient in one kind of nutrient. This we can do actually. So mixed cropping means, write in your copies, it means planting different types of crops with different nutrient demand. This has to be taken into consideration that the crops you are choosing should have different nutrient demand. Then only it will fulfill our what we need actually. This only can maintain the soil fertility. So mixed cropping means planting different kind of crops with different nutrient demand in the same field. And if you do that in this way, the soil will not become deficient in particular nutrient. But actually this has a certain kind of disadvantage. You must be thinking also, like if you are growing different types of crop in the same field, then you will face certain kind of problem in harvesting, because there is a chance that both the crops grow at the same time. So if both the kind of crops grow at the same time, then there will be difficulty in harvesting, because everything will just get messed up, right? So in avoid that, what we do is we transform mixed cropping into intercropping. We transform mixed cropping into intercropping. What we do, we just we select different crops in the same way with different nutrient demand, but we don't plant randomly. We plant in a well-defined manner. That suppose I plant crop X in this kind of row. I know that all the crops in this row is of X, and I just keep a gap and I just plant another crop, suppose Y. So that means I can just supply them with the things they require actually, and moreover I won't face any difficulty in harvesting, because I'll be knowing that this much line is of this X crop and this specified area is occupied by Y crop. So we can actually cover up those drawbacks which we face in the case of mixed cropping. So we can just transform mixed cropping into intercropping. So the only difference is that we are planting different crops with different nutrient demand in a specific manner. That is, we are just planting them in a specified rows. So again, mixed cropping will not make the soil deficient in any particular kind of nutrient, and its disadvantages can be covered by intercropping. Third, we have a crop rotation. Now, what we do in crop rotation? Crop rotation is practice of growing crops alternatively in a season. Now, how? Suppose I have a certain patch of land. What I do is I plant, say I plant crop X into it, which needs, let's say example, it needs nitrogen as a main nutrient, right? So when I harvest that crop, please don't repeat that specified crop again. Suppose I planted X crop, it required nitrogen. Now my soil has, the level of nitrogen in soil has gone down. So do not grow that same crop again. Alternate with some other crop which do not need nitrogen. Let's say again an example, suppose I plant a crop X which needs nitrogen, right? So that means the content of nitrogen in my soil has gone down. So what I do is I try to plant leguminous plants. Say we just plant a plant from a leguminous family, and we know that leguminous plants have rhizobium bacteria in their root nodules which is capable of nitrogen fixation. So they don't need nitrogen actually, and in return they can actually increase the level of nitrogen again. So this you can do, that you can just alternate the crops with different nutrient requirement in an alternate season, so that your soil does not get deficient in a particular kind of nutrient. So these three things, these three methods you can actually employ naturally. What you can do by just using your brain, you can do this, that you can just follow these three techniques, and tactfully you're just trying to maintain the soil fertility. This is how we can do. But so these are the natural ones. Now coming on to the artificial ones, that how we can actually restore the fertility or how we can increase the fertility. We have two artificial methods by use of manures and fertilizers. We can do that. We can add manures, we can add fertilizers. Now what are manures? Manures are actually natural organic substances which is obtained by animal waste by the action of microbes. You must be knowing cow dung cakes or the dung cakes. So those dung cakes are actually the natural organic substances which is obtained by the decomposition of microbes. And when you are preparing manures with the help of microbes, it is said to be compost. It forms compost. And when for the decomposition you are using earthworm as a microbes, it is said to be vermicompost. So that means manures are the natural organic substances. It can be a farm waste, it can be a dairy waste, it can be a you can say a residue, vegetable domestic waste, that is vegetable matter and all. It can, or you can say it can be green manure, it can be compost, it can be vermicompost if the decomposition occur with the help of earthworm. So in any way you have the natural organic substance, and when you add that natural organic substance in soil, it is going to increase humus, that is the organic matter, and it is going to restore the fertility of the soil and also increase the fertility of soil. But so if we look for the advantages, what we see is it enhances fertility. Obviously I told you they add humus, they add many nutrients also, so they are just increasing the fertility of the soil. Secondly, humus increase water retention. That soil which is fertile, which has more manure, it has power to retain water, which is very much required for the growth of the crops. Third, it increases the soil bacteria. The soil, again, if you add an organic matter, the soil bacteria will increase. So they will also increase the fertility again in an indirect manner. And manure do not alter the pH of the soil. They don't affect the pH. pH remains same. It neither makes the soil acidic or alkaline. It retains the pH of the soil as it is. But there are certain disadvantages. First, manures are required in very large amount. They are required in very large amount, and moreover they are bulky, so it is very you can say there is difficulty in the transportation as well. And the one major drawback is that they are not nutrient specific. Suppose if my soil is lacking in a nitrogen nutrient, I need a substance which can add actually nitrogen. But what manures actually do, they are not nutrient specific, they add all nutrients in small amount. So that means manure can actually fulfill our need, but not to a great demand. So we have a certain kind of chemicals which we can actually use in that way, that is the fertilizer. But still, as you know, that everything which has an advantage has a certain disadvantage too. So fertilizers are of great use, but still we encounter many kind of drawbacks. So we are going to discuss about fertilizers now. So fertilizers are the chemicals which are synthesized in the factories, and they are used for maintaining the fertility. Like we commonly use NPK fertilizer, which is giving the 3 primary nutrients, that is the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, to the soil. Now the advantages of using fertilizer, that they are required in very small quantity. Right, like manure is required in a large quantity to fulfill the need. Like in comparison, fertilizers are required in a very small quantity. Moreover, there is one more major advantage, is that they are nutrient specific. Suppose my soil is lacking in a nitrogen nutrient, so I get a fertilizer which contain only nitrogen in the market. So I can just buy that and I can just use that specific fertilizer in my field. Third, they provide high yield, like they are used in a small amount, but still we get a high yield. And moreover, as they are in a liquid form, so we know that the substances which are in liquid form, they are easy to store and transport. Like you need to supply, suppose I say 100 cow dung cakes, so 100 cow dung cakes will occupy a large space. So how many cakes you can think of that you can supply from one place to another? But a liquid which is required in a small amount can be transported easily from one place to another. But as I told you, that every good thing has something stored in it which has a major drawback. So likewise, fertilizer have. One is they are expensive. They are expensive because see, this is waste. We want to get rid of waste, so we can just use the waste in form of manure. But fertilizers are specially synthesized for this purpose. So obviously they will have some cost involved. So they are expensive. Secondly, they can make the soil acidic or alkaline. Like if we use too much of fertilizer, they can actually alter the pH, which is not a good thing because the plants will suffer, the growth of plants will retard in that case. Third, sometimes the excess crops wilt the crops also. If we use excess fertilizer, that might wilt the crops. Moreover, and if if you have if you get a vegetable or a fruit or any product of plant which is meant for consumption, so what happen, like if you will not wash it properly, then you are just consuming it, then obviously you are consuming a chemical, and you know that consumption of chemical is can lead to many diseases also. So these are the certain disadvantages which we need to take care of. And one more important thing, it is biodegradable and it is non-biodegradable. And anything which is non-biodegradable is obviously linked with the problem for the disposals. So where we are going to dispose these fertilizers? So if we dispose them, if they run through soil into water bodies, they will lead to eutrophication. That means excess growth of algae. Again, the aquatic life will suffer. And if they will retain in the soil, obviously they are going to alter the pH, they are going to affect the crops. And so that means the disposal is the main problem. And anything which is non-biodegradable obviously leads to pollution in one or other way. So this is but still we make use of fertilizers because we are thoroughly dependent on crops to fulfill our needs. So again, this is the third step, that is how we can improve the fertility, and this is a very important question. So please just practice it because definitely you're going to get this question in your paper. So this is the third step, that how we can improve the fertility. Now we are moving on to the fourth step of agriculture practice.